Miranda, thank you so much for being a guest today on Redesigning Life. It is a very personal and very last minute episode. I think anyone who's followed me on social media knows what's happening with my dog Harper. For a little bit of background, Miranda is communicates with animals, or some people would call you a pet psychic, but you say you don't call yourself a pet psychic. But I was referred to you by a friend, and we had a reading yesterday. So I want to get into that. But first, for my listeners, can you, in a nutshell, tell people how would you explain what you do?
So, I am a human and animal communications counselor, which means that I work with the animals and their humans. So, I'm also a human counselor, but at that intersection where they may have more to heal and more to work on and more to learn from each other. And especially us learning from the animals because they actually know quite a great deal about us, perhaps more than they let on, although they do usually like to share, but also in a way of us healing ourselves based on what they may reflect back to us. So there's a lot going on, and I work with humans and have transitioned as well. I've been doing this work for many decades, and in this lifetime and before. Yeah.
How many years have you been doing this?
54.
Yeah, that's a long time.
It
So
is.
I would say you're good at what you do. And so yesterday I actually had a reading with Miranda, and as many of you know, I have had to make the decision on to put Harper down, and I've never had a dog before. This is my first dog. I don't know the signs. I don't, even though she's been with me for 15 years, I made the decision to put her down, but I kept second guessing myself and getting everyone's opinion. And thank goodness there were so many beautiful people in my life that came through. One of them being Krista Williams. People might know her from almost 30 podcasts. She's the one who recommended you. I love Krista, and I'm so glad she did because my heart was breaking and I needed clarity and I needed somebody to just tell me what to do. And when I said to you on the phone yesterday, I felt like my heart was breaking and you had taken a needle and thread and you mended it back up. How you were able to communicate with Harper and confirm that it is time for her to transition. But how does it work? How are you able to tap into a pet or an animal to communicate with their owner?
You know, it's interesting. Usually it's the human who brings the animal, but secretly it's the animal who gets the human to come. And so the human is usually on a mission of something that they want to accomplish or something that they want to know. And and many times the animal will say things the human is not expecting. And that's my favorite part because I get to learn as well and listen as well and support the way that human receives it so that it is in a loving place. What I can tell you is that I came into this life remembering more than most people. And so at 3 years old, I couldn't believe people didn't know where they just had been. And I didn't have the disconnect between the lifetimes that here that we think of as normal, if you will. And so my parents were very strong at saying to me, honey, that's really nice, but keep it in the house. You know, which at the time I thought that meant something was wrong with me. But what I
Yeah.
learned years later was no, it was protection. It was incredible protection. And so I was able to learn. And then also something that really contributed was my parents ended up trying to figure out about who their daughter was and all that. Being on the board of ASPR, which is American Society for Psychical Research, for 17 years. And so from the time I was 9 on, once a month, the greatest, most incredible psychics, mediums, trance mediums, sensitives would come to our house to demonstrate to the core people on the board that they were the real deal, because they then wanted to speak to everyone who's members. And it's ASPR started in the UK, where there was a lot of psychical research for many years, like 100 years before we got it here. But so I have been gifted with not only coming in with this, but also developing and being able to watch incredible people doing this as I was growing up, to see what they were like and what they were doing. And there was an interesting repetitive pattern I saw, which I found interesting, Sabrina, especially since we're now doing this kind of work in our lifetimes at this point. And that is that I saw most of the people who were sensitive psychics mediums were either way overweight and had diabetes, or were like skin and bones, wiry, and smoking like crazy. And it took me a while to figure out why that was happening, and it was how they grounded themselves. So when we think about many medicine people in different cultures, there are many cultures where they are very heavy. They are very grounded, and that's what they're doing. So I made decisions early on. Okay, well, I'm not doing that. Okay, well, I'm not going to be like that. Totally overriding that I was calling in higher energy, and it didn't matter if I was tired, I could override it. I was like, so I had a lot of humbling and a lot of lessons I'm still learning. Yeah.
And so you obviously had this gift at such a young age, and I guess, suppose you just kept practicing and practicing, and you've been doing it for the past 54 years. How do you tap into a pet's energy when you're not physically next to them? Because you and I were on the phone yesterday.
So I've just been doing this a really long time, and we all have skill sets like this. It just depends on whether we're developing them or not. So yes, what I found was there were certain patterns where if I was absolutely dedicated and focused, after 2 or 3 years, I'd be given another skill set to develop. And so it comes down to people listening, being willing to listen, which is why I teach online. After teaching in person for many years, I do teach online a level 1 that is a basic animal communication, level 2, which is your animal and you, which is more human focused, and then level 3, which is mentoring one-on-one. But the focus is that if we allow ourselves to experience our sensitivity in a conscious way, we can open doors that have been waiting for us to open, or sensitivities that have been there, but we've just been, by our culture, like smash them down, not believing. And so now what's happening on the planet is so many people are opening and developing. It's pretty incredible to see how much we can grow and have been growing. And yesterday, my experience of you in this, in what you were asking about and what was going on, was that you were so willing to be vulnerable. You were so willing to, whatever your animal wanted, you needed to hear. And that you came, yes, sort of torn open and raw, but you were so beautifully vulnerable, without ego involved. Just how can I support this animal that has supported me for so many years? And I enjoyed so much working with you because it's supporting you. You are so open. And it doesn't surprise me that you have a very successful pod following because you are so open. Because you're
Sometimes my parents think a little too open.
your parents think that?
Yes. My dad's like, do you have to talk about that? Yes.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny. But bless their
So
hearts.
I know. Yesterday when you hear from animals, like so Harper, for instance, do you see pictures or do you hear words? How does the communication come to you?
All of that. all of the above and more. I have so many different skill sets in my tool bag that at one point they all just melded together. So there are things that I learned from feeling sensations and listening and experiencing and remembering, and then also being open to, wow, I haven't seen this before, or I haven't experienced that before. So it all, for me, it is now all melded together and still grows and still puffs up and still has wonderful textures that show up and new learnings. I did spend quite a bit of time working with children that are special needs children that are nonverbal because their parents needed to know. And there is a wonderful woman named Susie Miller Susie, oh, for Pete's sake, Susie. Anyway, she's amazing, and she specializes in this because those kids have higher guidance coming in, and I love that. And I think it is Susie Miller, and she's really working with that energy and expressing, as was I, and so I am grateful because this expansion is leading us to be more open. And learning more. And let's face it, we have a lot to learn, and time is picking up the way we experience it. It's moving faster.
Yeah.
On this planet.
So yesterday, the reading was so just mind-blowing because all you knew was Harper's, how old she was, the breed, her name, my name. That was it. You didn't know how she was feeling, and you had tuned into where the pain was coming from, and it is her hips, and it was all of the things that you were saying, that she can't walk up and down stairs, and how would you know that? Like, it was just wild that you were talking to her. But during this call, you were very busy, and I was very desperate to get you on the phone. So it was basically the first slot that you had available, which was in the morning. My boyfriend was in town visiting me because he knows I'm having, it's just been a difficult time. And so he supports me, and he knows how spiritual I am, but I wouldn't say he agrees with all of my choices. And so when I told him I'm calling a pet psychic, he was like, oh, okay. And so I said, do you want to be in the room, or do you want me to take this in the office? He was like, no, I want to be here. And he overheard our conversation. When I looked over at him, he was bawling too. And when we got off the phone, I asked him, what made you so emotional? And he said, I think it's, and he said it so eloquently, like, when somebody else tells you something in your heart to be true, there's something so emotional. And I think for you telling me that it was time and that I made the right decision, it was like the floodgates opened. I could not stop crying. I couldn't catch my breath. And when you were telling me what Harper was saying, that she was worried about me, and that she feels sad that her body was giving out on her, I know that she feels that way. So it's just, I was trying to explain to my friends and family, this kind of pain is so much different than losing a family member or a friend or, or human. It's just this, it's a different part of my heart, my soul that I didn't even know existed is breaking. And how do you explain why that is? What is it about pets that creates this sort of grief that is indescribable?
It's the T word, truth. When we hear the truth, we know it. And we have a physical body response. And it is such an interesting reflection of how often we may not be hearing the truth, that when we do, it has such an impact. I remember someone saying to me many years ago, oh yeah, you do what? And this guy said to me, oh yeah, I'm sure there are animals that ask to be killed. And I said, no, actually, they're usually stressed. They're usually in a lot of pain. They've done the best they can, and they're looking for release. And I've even worked with a lot of animals that try to that become very sort of closed down because their humans are so upset, they don't want to upset their humans. So that's another reason I enjoyed working with you yesterday, because there was no, I can't show him that. I can't show Harper that. I can't. No, it was just this. I'm raw. This is who I am, and I'm trying to do the best I can to see what he needs and what he wants. And I remember too that yesterday the very first thing he said to me was, "Can you help my human?" And I said, "What does your human need help in?" He said, "Because she's worried about me, and I don't want her to be." Like that, he didn't want you to use your energy worrying about him. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. And Harper is such a wonderful soul. I wondered, do you ever have readings where the pet is not ready to transition?
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, I have had animals that are on walking on three legs. They have almost no hearing and they're blind. And you think, okay, obviously, this animal's ready to transition, and they go, no, not time. Then I have others coming in to my practice where they are not skipping in, but they come in and they say, "Get me out of here. This cancer's eating me alive." And that's why we ask. It's not up to us. It's not our decision. Ours is to listen and ask. They'll tell us.
It's
And if
true.
we're
It
not
feels
right,
but it feels in my heart that it's my decision and I'm like killing my best friend. But what you said to me was her body's giving out on her just because she's leaving her body doesn't mean she's leaving you. You
yes.
kept saying that to me.
Yeah, because she's very absolutely did not want you to suffer with the misinformation that because someone doesn't have a body, they can't be near you.
Yeah,
This
and I
whole, yeah, this whole system of it's on the other side or there's a veil. There's no more veil and there are no more sides. We need to accept that because we can learn a lot. So, yes, I mean your willingness to be open and just say, but I am really having a tough time with this, and I am really challenged with this. Is so important.
I think this is an interesting episode because we're talking, right before I'm about to have her transition. So we've talked about the decision making. How how can someone who's listening to this that maybe just needs the sign, like how do they communicate? What advice can you give to somebody to get signs from their pets if they're still alive and but maybe struggling in some way?
That's a really wonderful question and a hard one to answer. I'll tell you why. Because humans, we all have a tendency to say, well, the vet said they'll stop eating. I've seen
Yes.
animals eat here and right out through and beyond. Or they won't be able to get up. And that can happen early on. That isn't necessarily what's going on. The most important questions, for me anyway, relate to pain, because then humans relate to, well, I don't want my animal to suffer. But as far as the focus of, is there any one way? What we want to stay away from is saying, you have to do so and so to let me know that you're ready to
Right.
go. Because that's a human definition. So what I
Right.
would suggest to everyone is, before they go to sleep at night, just clear their mind screen, let every tension and stress of the day go down through the bed into Gaia. She knows how to handle it. And then when you're clear and relaxed, on your mind screen, pull up a picture of your animal or a video of your animal. And just say, is there anything I need to know? Is there anything you wish to show me? And be willing to be open to whatever they're showing you. They may take you on a trip down to the beach. But if you don't start using that, and the only time you're going to use it is when the animal's in a lot of pain or you're not sure, that's really challenging to be objective. Yes, there
Yeah.
are things you can feel inside that something's going on. Absolutely. Yeah. At some
It's
point,
so funny that you bring that up, though. And I'm sorry, I'm not going to curse, but it's such a mind game when people tell you if she's eating, you should keep her alive.
I
If the
know.
vet says so and so, then you're fine. Somebody who meant well said to me when they came over, "Oh, she seems fine to me." It's, you start and that's the thing. Everybody says, "Well, once she stops eating, then that's the time." It's like, well, no, I feel like something else is going on. So you have to, I had to listen to my intuition. And even though I did, of course, I second guessed myself because it's just painful. It's just a horrible pain to go through.
Yeah. Well, and I appreciate your saying that because it's true. When you look at Harper, I can see why people would say, oh, wow, there's nothing going on there. But they haven't focused their life on listening at a deeper level. And that's where you can get the true information. And I don't know about you, but I'd want to be asked, are you ready to transition?
Yeah, me too.
I would want to be asked.
Me too. Me too.
Yeah.
If somebody, and I'm asking for myself, come, when this happens very soon, what advice can you give to somebody who just transitioned their pet and is healing?
Can you say it a different way? I'm not sure what you were saying. See?
So when this happens, when she transitions, what advice can you give to a pet owner, me, to help heal my pain?
Oh, first of all, acknowledging that it's really okay and good to be in pain and cry and let it out. And as we know, pain can come in waves. So when we least expect it, and that's natural, and that is part of healing. What I would suggest is, I remember Harper saying to you yesterday, you're the only one who could keep us separated. So if you say I'm lost, it makes it that much harder for me to get you to feel my presence. So yes, we experience a loss. I'm not saying we don't. But when we say, I lost Harper, you know what? She transitioned and I miss her physical presence. There's the difference right there. However, when I sleep at night, I can feel her, or in the daytime. And I would suggest for most people, one of the easiest things I think for people to visualize is if you're used to walking your dog, or you're used to doing a walking meditation with your horse, or you're used to having your cup of coffee with your cat right next to you in the morning, vision that is still there. Is the physical body there? No. But was your cat helping you vision the story you were reading with your cup of coffee? Yes.
Yeah.
And so allowing that to take place, allowing it, just, laying back on your bed, getting your solar plexus to relax, being horizontal is very important right now because we are all recalibrating at a cellular level. We need to be horizontal to let the energy gather and not spend it right away, but let it come so our creativity can take us to a more supple way of communicating and perceiving our lives and observing. Discernment is worth its weight in gold. We just need to watch and be to be open to that communication in whatever form.
About 7 years ago or so, Olivia, I have an 8-year-old daughter, so maybe it was a little less than that, but her dad and I broke up. It wasn't planned. It felt like it was something overnight that happened. So I had to put my big girl pants on and keep this strong face on for my daughter because I was still working and I just had to stay strong. And I really stuffed down my emotions, and because I didn't want to fall apart, because I didn't have the luxury to fall apart. I had to keep it together, to keep this house together, to keep my career together, and to keep, a 2-year-old that depended on me. And at that point, Harper started acting very strange. She was shaking, lots of like shaking attacks, and just acting like not normal. And, at this point, she was 7 years old, very well trained, never an issue. So I had a dog behavioralist come, like a trainer, to see, hey, what's going on? Can you help me figure out what's going on with my dog? And he hung out with Harper for a little while. And then he looked at me and he was like, forget about Harper. What's going on with you? And I felt I was annoyed. Like, bro, you're not a therapist. Like, I'm fine. And he was like, what's going on with you? That's who you should be asking. It's your stress that's causing her to act like this. And I almost kicked him out of my house, but then I realized he was right. I hadn't been allowing my emotions to come out, so I was holding them in so hard, and that they were almost coming out in Harper. That's why she was shaking. She was a nervous wreck because I was a nervous wreck. And as humans, I think we're much more equipped to hide it and to fake it. And
Mm.
dogs just don't care to do that. So do you see that a lot in animal behavior?
Well, actually, I want to say animals become stoic for protection. So they will hide their pain. They will hide what's going on. And especially when an animal is close to a person and the human is going through something, they're trying to balance that human. And so they may not show it. I like that Harper was showing that because look what it did. It reflected back to you. It pulled you to pull a trainer to you to say, mirror, mirror, you know,
Yes.
mirror, mirror, what's going on? And that's such a beautiful awareness. Yeah.
And do you see that happen often with pets, like that they change their behavior because of their owners, whatever's going on in their owner's life?
Oh, yes. One of my favorite teaching stories is a man, a friend of mine, mutual friend, with a client, said, I want to send this man to you. I think he needs to listen to his cat. And so he contacted me, and there was a little bit of resistance, like he's almost only doing this because his friend suggests he's shit. But he said the thing that irritated him was his cat sleeping on his chest, and that it was hot and it was not okay. And God, can you just tell him to just get off my chest? And the cat showed me that there was something going on with his heart. So I said to him, your cat is saying that they're challenged with it. There's nothing wrong with my heart. You know, I mean, he was just disgusted with the whole thing. And I said, well, that may be something you want to, check out. So at any rate, that was all I knew. And we had the rest of the appointment. And then, he went on his way. But 2 weeks later, the person who connected me called and said, I just need to let you know that he went to a heart specialist who said, oh, yeah, you have heart problems. And so that cat was working, adjusting the frequency of its purr to the tempo that would help heal that man's heart. And
Wow.
that cat worked with this man for 2 years, at the end of which time he passed, and the cat passed within 2 weeks after that.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
done, work done.
when pets do pass, do they reincarnate in sometimes other pets that you have in the future? How does that work?
Some animals, if what's happening between both souls still have more to learn from each other, that can happen. And everyone wants to hear their animal's going to come back to them. Okay, just a heads up. Just a heads up. If you cannot hold on to that, you actually stand a better chance of learning more. I know people rush out sometimes and get another animal right away. And here's the challenge with that. When we are so upset and we're used to having an animal balance us, to rush out and get another animal while we are out of balance, guess who we're going to pull to us? An
Yeah.
animal that's out of balance.
Right.
And now 6 months go by, and that's when I get the calls. What's wrong with this animal? Well, the human has started to heal some and now looks at the animal as being weird and strange. But they didn't work on their own healing before they asked for the next animal. So
Yeah.
here's what I do. I'm on my 4th real service dog, over 36 some years. I ask that animal, you know the teacher I need. You know who I need. Please send that being to me when it's time, when I'm ready. And I let it go. It's a prayer going out. We just let it go. there you go.
Do dogs reincarnate ever as people? And do people reincarnate as dogs? Is there like cross contamination, for lack of a better word? Or do animals stay as animals and people stay as people?
I have met monks in dogs' bodies.
Have you met dogs in monks' bodies?
Yes.
Okay, good. So that's good to know.
See, when we put up those boundaries, we're not allowing ourselves to grow as much as we can. You know, there's a wonderful video online. I don't have my hands on it now, but there's so many wonderful videos. If we watch them, we can learn so much. This is a very wonderful, I can't believe I don't remember her name, but it's his name. He's a gorilla, and he learned sign language. And before he passed, he said the humans have to hurry and catch up. They are causing problems. They need to do this now. And then he passed. He's a very famous gorilla. I apologize to him for not knowing his name right now, pulling it up. But that is such an amazing teacher.
Yeah.
And so looking at who we can learn from. And so many people have been listening to dolphins for so many years, and whales, you know, and so many horse people have learned that doing walking meditations, they will understand. It goes on with so many species, who we have next to us and who we can learn from and who we pull to us to learn from.
Yeah. I know a lot of people do equine therapy. Some people do like cow hugging therapy. And do, do you, I mean, obviously, I would assume that you believe that that's beneficial for people going through any sort of transition in their time, to help animals help heal them.
To help, well, you asked about did it help humans?
Well, so animals, yeah. Yeah, like equine therapy, all of that. Like animals can help heal humans, right?
Right. And it
Yeah.
is incredible that they would even give us the time of day, actually. Our behavior is
I know.
very
I know.
outstanding. You know, we're a species that
I
has
know that.
affected everyone. Yeah. And I
It's
feel,
funny. I
go
go
ahead.
ahead. I was in our call yesterday. I don't know if you remember, but I said, "Can you apologize to Harper?" Because one time we were doing construction and the construction guys left the gate open and she got away. And it's like, I worry about, is she mad at me about that? Is she mad at me for that time I forgot to let her back in the house? Is she mad at me that after I had Olivia, I wasn't able to give her as much time, and just apologize for me? And you had said that, the dogs don't think like that, that humans do, that she's okay and that she doesn't even need to forgive me.
Well, and she spoke for herself. And she
Yeah.
said, you know, essentially, don't do that to yourself. Well, I don't carry that, you know? And you know, it's interesting. I remember quite some time ago someone asking me, do the animals carry that pain with them, like of what's gone with them? I once had a cat say to his human, we're different. We carry the lesson, but not the pain. So I think if we can remember that,
I
that
love that.
really helps us. We carry the lesson, but not the pain. Yeah, yeah.
I love that.
And
Yes, it's that Harper loved me. Harper loved me when I didn't even love myself. That's unconditional love.
see, that's beautiful. That's incredible. I love that you know that. I love that you're aware of
Yeah.
that. And that you can say every night, every morning, whatever, thank you for holding me when I was struggling so hard. You know, those are wonderful badges, if you will, that take with them. You know, I know there are animals for years when I first started doing this professionally that would talk about when the animal had already transitioned and I was working with it posthumously. They would brag about their humans because there were so many animals that would gather around that wanted to hear, wow, you're human. Wow, she did that. Wow, he was really like that. And they just sort of like, oh, they want to hear about it. So
Yeah.
anytime you can express to an animal, you could be walking by on the sidewalk past an animal that's on a choke chain or a prong collar and see it, and you can pass and say, I am sorry that is happening to you, and it is because the human doesn't understand right now, and I am offering love to you and hopeful guidance to your human. You don't have to confront anyone, you just place that around the human and around the animal as you walk by, because we do have a lot to learn. We really
Yeah,
do.
I have unfortunately confronted some pet owners in my past. I have gotten into many arguments with pet owners where I've seen some things that I don't necessarily agree with. But in the future, I won't get into any more altercations, and I'll just give a "I love you" to that pet.
Well, and here's the thing, I know what you mean, Sabrina. Many, many years ago, I confronted a man who I saw him. We were at a huge horse show in Albuquerque, and he was on this horse. The horse was in a small stall, but it was out in the open. And he was on top of the horse, and he would take his spurs and jam them into the horse's neck, which made the horse back up and hurt herself in the corner. I couldn't stand it. I could not stand it. So I walked over, and I had a girlfriend with me who was hearing, because at the time I was deaf, because this technology is new. I walked over, and he was attracted to me, so he started, like, hey, and I walked up to him, he got off his horse and came over. And I said, I don't know if your animal does, but I hate you. But I learned the hardest lesson. He got back on that horse and did it even more.
Oh,
And it was my wonderful teacher, Linda Tellington Jones, who said to me, Miranda, that's why. That's why you have to do it non-verbally. You have to be careful, because unless the human is open to it, which obviously they're not,
right.
it gets harder on the animal. It gets taken out on the animal,
Yeah.
So we just have to be careful. I know. And that was a huge lesson for me, but very grateful to learn it so long ago.
Yeah.
So long ago.
I cannot thank you enough for your guidance yesterday. And I mean, maybe you've heard this before, but we got off the phone yesterday morning, so it's been about 24 hours or so. And I feel like Harper is even deteriorating more. She's not eating as much. It's almost like she knows this is the end, and that, just being, gosh, she's being sweet still, and I'm giving her hugs. We hung out all night last night, but I just feel like she knows. She knows.
Well, and also, yes, and because she's the one who made the decision.
Yes.
She's the one who said, but also, she's been stoic to hide as much as she could. And now the secret's out.
Yeah.
And now she can relax. So although you're seeing her deteriorate a little bit more, please thank yourself, because she's now allowing herself to just be. And that means there's less interference between the two of you. That makes you
Yes.
even closer.
Yes.
No?
I keep telling her, like, she had an accident, and I just said, it's okay. I got this. We got this. And I just cleaned her up, came back on the couch, watched a movie with her, like, no judgment, no anything. Just, I let her know that now it was my time to take care of her.
Yeah. Well, I look forward to hearing after she transitions what the
Thank
two
you
of you
so
have
much.
to say. Oh, yeah. I mean, the two of you are so close, and what you're doing in the world, Sabrina, is very, very important. And I have no doubt that Harper will be by your side, got your back, whatever, because she knows it's a big mission that you're on. So thank you
Thank
for
you
the
so
work
much.
that you're doing. Well, thank you for the work you're doing. It's very
Thank
important.
you. And for anyone listening to this episode, I'm going to put in the show notes how to get in touch with Miranda and also her Instagram as well.
Yes, so mirandaalcott.com or mirandaalcottcourses.com. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you, Miranda. I'll be back in touch.
Thank you. Much love.
Miranda, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for sharing about your